Number 10, Colt Dragoon, 1848. When the Colt Walker hit the frontier, it was powerful but impractical, weighing nearly 5 pounds and carrying enough powder to shake itself apart. That's where the Colt Dragoon stepped in, arriving in 1848 as the smarter, tougher answer. Built in .44 caliber with a 6-round cylinder, the Dragoon was designed for mounted troops who needed stopping power without breaking their holsters. One of the biggest changes was the shorter 7.5-inch barrel compared to the Walker's oversized 9 inches, making it far easier to draw and handle. Colt also fixed one of the biggest Walker's flaws, the loading lever that dropped with every shot, by adding a latch to hold it in place. Suddenly, soldiers had a revolver that could handle repeated fire without falling apart in their hands. Although it was still hefty compared to later 6-shooters, the Dragoon struck a balance between power and practicality. It delivered massive firepower for close encounters, and cavalrymen loved the way it could knock down targets with authority. Around 20,000 were produced between 1848 and 1860, and they saw action from the Mexican-American War through the early frontier years. Collectors today consider the Dragoon a masterpiece of early revolver design. But the next revolver on our list didn't just improve on an older model, it completely reshaped how soldiers fought in the Civil War. Number 9, Remington New Army, 1858. By the time the Civil War erupted, the need for a reliable sidearm was greater than ever, and Remington answered the call with the New Army 1858. This revolver stood out immediately because of its solid frame. Unlike Colt's open-top design, the Remington featured a full top strap, making it sturdier and less prone to bending under heavy fire. Soldiers quickly trusted it for its toughness, especially in the chaos of battle. Chambered in .44 caliber, the New Army 1858 packed a serious punch. But what made it even more remarkable was its interchangeable cylinder. With no tools required, a soldier could swap cylinders and get back in the fight faster than others fumbling with powder and ball reloads. That small design tweak gave the Remington a massive advantage in combat. It also featured safety notches cut between chambers on the cylinder, allowing it to be carried fully loaded without the risk of accidental discharge if dropped. That might sound minor today, but in the 1860s, it gave soldiers confidence that their revolver was ready at all times. Over 122,000 of these were produced, and even Buffalo Bill was known to carry one into the 1900s. With its durability, safety, and quick reloading, the Remington became one of the most trusted revolvers of its era. But as legendary as it was, another Colt design was about to capture the attention of thousands of Union soldiers. Number 8, Colt 1860 Army. When the Colt unveiled the 1860 Army revolver, it immediately became one of the most popular sidearms of the Civil War. Chambered in .44 caliber, it was lighter and sleeker than many of its competitors, which made it easier to carry during long marches or battles. With a 6-round cylinder and an effective range pushing nearly 100 yards, it offered a mix of power and accuracy that soldiers valued. The revolver was built with an open-top frame, giving it a clean, smooth look and a streamlined barrel that blended into the frame. Its walnut grips gave it a classic Old West feel, while the case-hardened frame and blued steel parts added strength and resistance to rust. Handling was smooth, recoil was manageable for a .44, and the balance in hand made it quicker on the draw compared to bulkier models. Production numbers were impressive. Over 129,000 were issued to Union soldiers, with many captured and carried by Confederates as well. It wasn't without flaws, though. The open-top frame could weaken over time, and barrels had a tendency to loosen after heavy use. Still, its reputation for reliability and effectiveness kept it in use long after the war ended. The Colt 1860 Army carved its place in history as one of the most trusted revolvers of its time. But the next revolver didn't just serve in the war, it brought a whole new twist by combining 2 weapons into one. Number 7, LeMat Revolver, 1856. Few revolvers in history are as unusual or as innovative as the LeMat. Designed in the 1850s by Dr. Jean-Alexandre LeMat of New Orleans, this revolver carried a surprise that set it apart from every other six-shooter of its time. Alongside its 9-shot cylinder, chambered in .42 caliber, the LeMat featured an additional smooth-bore shotgun barrel underneath, loaded for a 20-gauge blast. With the flip of a lever on the hammer, a soldier could choose to fire either the revolver's bullet or the shotgun shell. That meant in one weapon you had both the precision of a revolver and the devastating close-range punch of a shotgun. It was expensive and a bit heavy, but for those who carried it, the LeMat was worth the wait. Confederate generals like J.E.B. Stuart and P.G.T. Beauregard were known to carry LeMats, and their reputations for close-quarters fighting helped cement the revolver's legendary status. Only about 3,000 were ever produced between 1856 and 1865, making it one of the rarer Old West firearms today. But its unique dual-barrel design has kept it in the spotlight as one of the most fascinating revolvers of the 19th century. The LeMat proved that revolver design could be pushed beyond tradition, and next we'll see how another revolver became the ultimate symbol of Union firepower during the Civil War. Number 6. Whitneyville Dragoon, 1847-48. The Whitneyville Dragoon is one of the rarest and most historically important revolvers ever produced. But as a traditional model between the massive Colt Walker and the later Colt Dragoons, it was essentially Colt's first attempt to refine the flaws of his earlier design. Only about 240 were ever made, which already makes it a prize for collectors. But its story is just as remarkable as its scarcity. After the Walker proved too heavy and prone to cylinder failures, Samuel Colt partnered with Eli Whitney Jr.'s factory in Whitneyville, Connecticut, to assemble revolvers using leftover Walker parts. The result was a firearm that combined Walker-sized frames with improvements that would define the future Dragoon series. The barrel was shortened from 9 inches to 7.5, reducing weight and making it far more practical for mounted use. The cylinder was also shortened but still retained serious stopping power in .44 caliber. Another crucial change was the addition of the latch to secure the loading lever, solving the Walker's notorious problem of the lever dropping after every shot. These adjustments, the Whitneyville Dragoon became more reliable and more user-friendly without losing the raw punch that soldiers wanted. Though only a small number were produced, the Whitneyville Dragoon set the stage for the revolvers that followed and remains one of the most prized revolvers of the Old West era. Number 5. Colt Walker, 1847. Few revolvers are as legendary or as intimidating as the Colt Walker. Designed in collaboration with Captain Samuel Walker of the Texas Rangers, this revolver was introduced in 1847 and immediately set itself apart as the most powerful handgun of its day. Chambered in .44 caliber, each cylinder could hold 60 grains of black powder, which was nearly double the charge of most revolvers of the time. That meant it could hit hard at ranges out to 100 yards, making it far more than just a close combat weapon. The Walker carried a massive 9-inch barrel and weighed 4.5 pounds, making it difficult to holster or carry comfortably. Its sheer size earned it a reputation as a horseman's gun, often carried in saddle holsters rather than at the hip. The recoil was equally formidable, and the pressure inside the chambers sometimes caused dangerous ruptures if loaded too heavily. Soldiers often had to use lighter loads to keep the revolver safe. Despite its flaws, the Walker's power was unmatched. In fact, it remained the most powerful production revolver in the world until the 20th century. Only about 1,100 were ever produced, with fewer than 200 surviving today, which makes them incredibly rare and valuable. The Colt Walker may not have been practical for every gunfighter, but its raw firepower cemented its place as one of the greatest revolvers of the Old West. Number 4. Remington Model, 1875. By the 1870s, Colt had already made waves with its single-action army, but Remington wasn't about to let the frontier be dominated by one brand. Enter the Remington Model 1875, a revolver designed to go head-to-head with Colt's famous Peacemaker. At first glance, the 1875 had a similar profile, but it quickly built its own reputation for ruggedness and reliability. One of the standout features of the Remington was its solid frame construction. Unlike Colt's removable backstrap and trigger guard, the Remington frame was built in a single piece, which made it stronger and more durable under the rough conditions of the Old West. It came chambered in popular cartridges such as .44 Remington centerfire, .44-40 Winchester, and even .45 Colt, giving shooters flexibility to use the same ammunition as their rifles. The revolver's handling was excellent, with less muzzle flip than many of its contemporaries. It also used fewer screws in its design, making it tougher and less likely to loosen over time. Around 25,000 to 30,000 were produced, fewer than Colt's revolvers, which has only made surviving examples more sought after by collectors today. Although it never outsold the Peacemaker, the Remington 1875 was a dependable workhorse that gave frontier lawmen, outlaws, and settlers a revolver they could trust when it mattered most. Number 3. Colt Frontier 6-Shooter 1877. In 1877, Colt made a smart move by introducing the Frontier 6-Shooter, a revolver chambered in the popular .44-40 Winchester cartridge. What made this decision so clever was that the same ammunition was also used in Winchester rifles, which meant a cowboy, lawman, or outlaw only had to carry one type of cartridge for both weapons. On the frontier, where every ounce of gear mattered, this was a game-changing advantage. The Frontier 6-Shooter shared much of its design with the Colt's legendary single-action Army. It had a solid frame, a reliable action, and a 6-round cylinder that delivered the same kind of dependability shooters had come to expect from Colt. The sights were simple but effective, with a frame-notch rear paired with a blade front sight for lining up quick shots. It also featured Colt's distinctive kidney-shaped ejector rod housing, which made clearing spent cartridges faster. Buyers could choose between different finishes, including sleek blued steel or bright nickel, both paired with attractive wooden grips. It wasn't just a working gun, it also had style, which appealed to those who wanted function and flair in equal measure. Though produced in smaller numbers than the .45 Colt versions, the Frontier 6-Shooter became highly collectible. Today, original examples can sell for tens of thousands of dollars at auction, a testament to their rarity and enduring place in the Old West history. Number 2. Colt 1877 Thunderer. The Colt 1877 Thunderer holds a special place in Colt revolver history as Colt's first double-action revolver. Introduced in 1877, it was chambered in .41 Colt and designed to give shooters faster follow-up shots compared to single-action models. With a 6-round cylinder and compact frame, it quickly became popular among those who wanted a sidearm that was quick in close encounters. The Thunderer's double-action trigger allowed the hammer to be cocked and fired in one pull, though the trigger was notoriously heavy and sometimes difficult to master. On top of that, the revolver had delicate internal parts that were prone to breakage, making it less durable than Colt's single-action designs. Still, when it worked, the Thunderer was a formidable tool. It was smaller than the big-horse pistols of the previous decades and much easier to conceal under a coat or sash, which made it a favorite among gamblers, city lawmen, and even notorious outlaws. Over 166,000 Thunderers were produced, showing just how much demand there was despite its flaws. Perhaps its biggest boost in reputation came from the people who carried it. Names like John Wesley Hardin, one of the Old West's most feared gunfighters, were associated with this revolver. That kind of endorsement kept the Thunderer in the spotlight long after production stopped. Compact, fast, and stylish, the Colt 1877 Thunderer proved that innovation always came with risk, but also with rewards. Number 1. Colt Single Action Army Peacemaker, 1873. If one revolver defines the Old West, it's the Colt Single Action Army, better known as the Peacemaker. Introduced in 1873, this six-shooter became the standard issue sidearm of the U.S. Army and quickly spread across the frontier in the hands of soldiers, lawmen, and outlaws alike. Chambered in the powerful .45 Colt cartridge, it delivered the kind of stopping power that people trusted with their lives when their lives were on the line. The design was simple but brilliant. A solid frame, a single-action trigger, and a 6-round cylinder made it tough, reliable, and easy to use. To fire, you had to cock the hammer before each shot, which gave the shooter control and precision. The revolver was built from machined steel with options for polished blue finishes, case-hardened frames, and elegant grips, ranging from walnut to ivory. Balanced in the hand and quick on the draw, it became the very image of the frontier revolver. The Peacemaker wasn't limited to one caliber either. While .45 Colt was the original, Colt offered versions in .44, .40, Winchester, and other popular cartridges, letting shooters carry the same ammo for their rifles and handguns. Production numbers soared, and countless variations exist, from cavalry models with long barrels to short sheriff's versions. More than any other revolver, the Colt Single-Action Army became the symbol of the Old West, a gun that represented law, order, and sometimes chaos. Its legacy has never faded, and it remains one of the most iconic firearms in history. Check out our next video where we reveal the top 20 revolvers that Americans will never stop loving.